What happened when you died?
It was 13 years ago. I was a beekeeper and I loved my bees, love my bees. And it was very early one morning. It was kind of stormy out, and I at the time was married, and it wasn't a very happy relationship. But I decided to go check on the bees. My partner and I wanted to check on the bees, so we went up, and they were very agitated. I wasn't quite sure what was going on. It wasn't their normal behavior. So they started to try and get underneath my suit in through a gap underneath the top. So I did the usual. I walked into the next field, tried to remain calm, took a deep breath, but I could feel my lips swelling, and I knew my eye was closing. And I thought, oh, this isn't good. I'm going to have to go back to the hive and shut the hive down and see what's going on here. And as I was shutting it down, I could feel my heart hammering a little, and I thought, oh, really don't feel well. So I started to walk back towards the house. Now my partner was behind me, and as I was walking to the house, I said, you know what, I think I'll call my friend. He's a, a homeopathist. He goes, no, I think you need to go somewhere else. What I didn't realize is he could see my skin. It looked like I had Rice Krispies underneath the skin. It was extreme shock. All the venom was trying to push itself out. It was almost like I had scales. It's a very unusual. I'm glad I didn't see it. I don't think I would have remained as calm. We got down to the house. I wasn't feeling very well at all, and I thought, I think I'll just lie down and I'll try and remain calm. And that felt awful. I could actually feel my lungs filling. So I sat up again, and I thought, all right, just try and take your mind out of it. Calm down, calm down. So he grabbed the keys. We got into the car, and I was watching my heart physically knock around in my chest. And I thought, okay, this isn't good. This really isn't good. And the emergency doctor was 4 miles away. We just got to the door, and I was trying all the mind games I could to try and take my mind out of everything that was going on so that I could be a bit more coherent. Very difficult to do when you're having a heart attack. I didn't realize that's what was happening. But I knew something was happening because I started to see white. And I thought, okay, I think that's all the organs trying to push blood down into the heart now. I'm losing consciousness. I knew I could start to see white. And I thought, okay, and I went to open the door, and that was it. I have no recollection immediately what happened after that. But what happened for me is the white turned into shards of rainbows, what I would call light consciousness or God consciousness or whatever your deity is, universal consciousness. And I thought, oh God, that's absolutely beautiful. Look at all these sparks of light, these sparks of rainbow. I started to feel a sense of calm. And I thought, I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid. I thought, okay, this is it. This is it. What's going to happen? I was, to be honest, I was kind of excited. It was like being on an adventure, and I didn't know where it was going to take me. So I just thought, go with it. I wasn't going to try and fight it. I thought, well, this is probably it. So go with it. The lights changed and they became even more bright. And as they did, that sense of peace just permeated my whole being, my whole energy. Everything was just peace and light and love and no fear. And just, I felt as if I was encased in the most beautiful ball of love you can ever imagine. So peaceful, just amazing. And the white around me started, as I looked and I peered, I could see maybe furniture, and then faces started to appear, and I thought, what's going on here? And then I heard the chink of what I can only describe as crystal glasses. And I thought, oh, are they having a party for me? I suddenly thought, are we having champagne? And I thought, okay. And then I started to see my relatives. It was like they were appearing before me. And I had surprised them. They weren't waiting for me, but they started to arrive. I could see my grandfather, my granduncle, a grandaunt, a friend. And I thought, this is amazing. They started to appear. Like out of the mist, I started to see faces. And like I said, I could hear, there was probably champagne being poured. I could hear the chink of glasses. Thought maybe a party and drinking champagne, I'm going to have to go back and do more work. Spiritually, that's not probably the way I want to be brought in. There are other ways I need to do more work. When my grandmother died, I know she saw the Virgin Mary, who was very important to her. I know that. The look of pure bliss on her face really said that. But for me, the faces started to appear. And I realized it was a celebration. It was like there was a gathering and they were going to have a big party for me. And the first face I saw was my grandfather. And I could see him there and he was smiling. Now, he didn't speak to me. He was just so happy to see me. I could feel he was like, well done, fair play to you. He was just full of praise. And then I started to see my granduncle and my elderly relatives. Their faces would appear, big smile in their faces, like, oh, she's here. And I thought, oh, is this a party? That's why I was all excited. Is this a party? Oh my God. And then I started seeing one or two friends who had passed away early. And I knew they would be there. I just instinctively knew in my heart they would turn up. And they were just so ecstatic to see me. They're like, wait till we get talking, All of this was going on and everybody was expecting me to come in. So I didn't really start to talk to them because, like I said, as I got to the door to walk in, that's when this being, I call her Hel Lima, when she appeared and stopped me from passing through onto the rest of the people. She didn't stop me. I guess there was an option, but the way she said it to me, I understood that I wasn't ready. So people who pass on, wow, they're definitely waiting for you. I like what Edgar Cayce says about how basically, we rewrite our stories before we come here. And then when we meet and then we pass on, it's kind of like going backstage after doing an act on stage. And we're all meeting our friends. Oh, look what you did to me. Oh my God, I did. And I thought, oh, I really like that. And that's kind of how I believe and see it. It's like the family are brought in to make you feel comfortable for the experience, but they're definitely there to help you. And they're there to hold your hand and say, you know what, you're here now. We're all here. It's a gathering. And the feeling that really permeated more importantly to me at the time was that I felt I was doing something right, or that I had been, all was okay. There was nothing wrong. I was okay. And that really was quite strong. And I thought, oh, this is good. This is what a great way to start, I decided to walk into the room, but there was like a double door. There was a door I was standing in, and then there was a door across from me, maybe 8 feet. And as I went to go through the door, immediately to my left, I noticed a little kind of like an ante room. That's the only way I can describe it. A little room to the left, like a chaise lounge area, right? And this being seemed to be lying asleep, but suddenly woke up. And we were communicating through telepathy. And I felt the presence was female. It was almost androgynous, but it felt female energy. And this being, when she stood up, was probably about 9 feet tall, very tall, pale bluish skin, eyes I can only describe, wow, they were like faceted jewels. And when you looked into them, you could just see the universe. You could just see the universe. And it was just amazing to gaze upon this beauty and the glow. And she looked at me and she said, darling, you're not expected yet. And I went, oh, okay. And I really just gave in. I just went, that's okay. And then I started my journey back. So I know I stopped the process. I wasn't curious about going off and looking at this, that, and the other. I've truly always accepted the process as another step in our lives. It's not the end. So I was actually looking forward to the adventure. But when I discovered I wasn't actually ready and that I needed to go back, I immediately went, okay. And with that, everything disappeared. And I started to come back into consciousness, first of all, because of a very practical thing. When you die, you tend to wet yourself. So I wet myself and I was thinking, oh, that's nice and warm and cuddly. What's that? And I went, did I wet myself? And I knew I was waking up then. And then I woke up and 5 people were staring at me, my partner, a doctor, an assistant, and someone else. I think the man who carried me in. They were very white-faced. I really didn't know what had happened. All I know is I came back, and then I had 2 very clear thoughts. One, I would say my earthly thought was, you can't take it with you. That expression, you can't take it with you. All the possessions or everything I have are irrelevant. They're not important. And I thought, okay, but the vision I had that I would call my heavenly thought when I came back was, all that's important in life and all you need to remember is to be happy in your heart. That's it. When you're happy in your heart, it's like a pebble dropping in the pond. The ripples, they move out and then they come back. And I completely understood what that meant. It really helped me to clarify my own thoughts about life as well too, that this joy that's inside you is a vibration and it affects everybody and everything around you. So all of that was processing in as I was coming round. The worst part of the experience was actually, because it was such a panic, and it was, this is a rural country area. This doctor was nearly retired. He'd never had to do this before. He panicked and gave the first adrenaline into my heart where I was having a heart attack. So and then he realized it was muscle. So now I had 3 shots of adrenaline, and Periton, antihistamine. But they forgot to put a heat blanket on me. So I had been unconscious for nearly 3 minutes. And what happened then is my blood temperature had dropped. So I went into hypothermic shock after that, which was actually far more frightening because you have no control over your body whatsoever. They immediately threw heat blankets on me. I said to him, what was my blood pressure? And he went, and I said, well, what was my pulse? No, okay. When I tell people the story, I always say your brain produces DMT. I said it's irrelevant whether you believe I saw something or not, because what happened and the experience is important. That the calm and the peace that comes with it is the message. That's it. It's really not important whether it happened here or outside of that. My personal belief is there's much more to life than what we are shown. And it's another process. And we go back to review ourselves. I didn't get to the review because I didn't get so far. I was actually stopped and said, you're not ready. As a practice, I tend to do my own review in life. I practice forgiveness. I'm an empath naturally. I try to see the good in everything naturally without trying. I really want to close doors of all the things that, maybe I've hurt people or people have hurt me, and to let go. And in my day-to-day living, I want to have my review now, so that when I move on, I'm on to the next chapter of whatever happens. And that's been important for me to understand, that life review is something that we can actually practice in our day-to-day thoughts and how we feel about each other and how we interact with each other, and how we maybe hold things, or we don't understand what forgiveness is, or but to explore those and to understand how important everybody is on this planet for whatever reason they're here. So that was my experience.